the City of Falls Church Planning Commission. I'll start it off by reading this notice. The meeting for which this agenda has been posted will be held pursuant to and in compliance with the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, Section 2.2-37.2, and state and local legislation adopted to allow for continued government operation during the COVID-19 declared emergency. All participating members of the Planning Commission will be present at this meeting through electronic means, and all members of the public are welcome to view the meeting at www.fallschurchva.gov/PC and on FCC TV, which is channel 11 on Cox, channel 2 on RCN, and channel 35 on Verizon. Public comments will be accepted electronically until the end of the public hearing, and you could submit those comments by sending an email to plan@fallschurchva.gov. Also, a quick reminder to my fellow commissioners, if you mute yourself, unless you have something to say, that will make the meeting go more smoothly. And with all of that out of the way, Ms. Bazemore, can you please call the roll?
Yes. Chair Rinkin?
Here.
Mr. Krasner?
Here.
Ms. Teets?
Here.
Mr. Wadiska?
Here.
Mr. Puentes?
Here.
Mr. Stevens?
Here.
Ms. Weiss?
Here.
All righty. Thank you for that. Now I just need a motion to adopt tonight's agenda. Looking for somebody to unmute, Russ.
So moved.
Ooh, Corey with motion.
Second.
Oh, Melissa with the second. Russ, you're slow on the mute button there. All right, I have a motion from Ms. Weiss, second from Ms. Teets. Quick roll call.
I third it.
Third from Mr. Wadiska. Quick roll call vote, Ms. Bazemore.
Chair Rinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Krasner?
Yes.
Ms. Teets?
Yes.
Mr. Wadiska?
Yes.
Mr. Puentes?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Ms. Weiss?
Yes.
All right, we have an agenda. We do not have a speaker series tonight. That's item 4. And item 5, Ms. Bazemore, do we have any petitions from the public or anyone else for items that are not on the agenda?
No.
Having none of those, we're on to our action items. 6A, which is the September 16th, 2020 minutes. I assume everyone had a chance to take a look at those. Do we have any comments, edits?
So I missed that meeting because it was the George Mason High School back to school night. So I think in at line like 60, where it says I voted yes for the previous minutes, I think I'd have to abstain since I wasn't here or wasn't there.
That's probably true. All right, I think we can get that adjustment made. Anything else?
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the minutes as amended of Wednesday, September 16th, 2020.
A second.
All right, a motion from Mr. Fuentes, second from Ms. Teets as amended. Quick roll call vote, please.
Mr. Rinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Krasner?
Yes.
Ms. Teets?
Yes.
Mr. Wadiska?
Yes.
Mr. Puentes?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Ms. Weiss?
Yes.
All right, thanks for that. Now we're on to item 6B, which is the public hearing and action on the 606 East Columbia Street subdivision, which we got into the details on at our work session in our last meeting, I think, which, unlike many subdivisions, seemed fairly straightforward. Gary, do we have any kind of follow-up presentation or anything?
Yeah, we'll have just a brief presentation. Emily will do that. She's been the project planner on this. And anyway, I'll turn it over to Emily.
Oh, thank you.
Hi. The request tonight is that Planning Commission holds a public hearing and take final action on both the preliminary plat and the final plat of the proposed subdivision at 606 East Columbia Street. I'm just going to give a bit of background once again. The subject property is located at 606 East Columbia Street on the corner of East Columbia Street and North Van Buren Street in the Broadmont neighborhood. The property has an existing 1.5-story home on it built in 1913, and the property is zoned R1A, low-density residential, and contains 26,806 square feet of land area. The applicant is Scott Shuffler from Cottage Street Homes, and he's here with us again tonight. And then the recommendation. Staff recommends Planning Commission approval of both the preliminary plat and the final plat. The proposed subdivision meets all applicable requirements of the city's subdivision and zoning ordinances, and the proposed subdivision is generally consistent with the comprehensive plan. Staff also recommends adding a condition to the approval about the curb extension to be constructed at the northeast corner of the property to improve pedestrian access and safety. And that's all that I have. There's also a little paragraph highlighting what you guys talked about in your meeting on September 16th. And that was mostly the orientation of the proposed homes fronting North Van Buren, the proposed bump out, as well as our property owner notices that we sent out. And we do have public comment tonight.
Alrighty. Thanks for that update. Yeah, I noticed we got an email in public comment, which I looked at, but did we get additional public comments that we haven't received yet?
So you guys did. I have my phone with me, so I can either read it verbatim because it's pretty brief, but the LeBlancs of 321 North Van Buren Street sent an email encouraging tree preservation, and that's the main gist of the email. They mentioned tree number 56, which was also mentioned by the Millers. It's deemed a noteworthy tree, and they'd like to see it preserved. They also mentioned trees numbers 54 through 64, saying that those would provide shade and habitat for wildlife.
All right. And I think as the Millers mentioned in their comment, I mean, that sort of thing is handled at site plan. I'm not sure what, sorry, I've got my dog here. I'm not sure what, if anything, can be done about that stuff during. Hey.
It's like a big dog.
He's a puppy.
Note to self: don't go to Randy's house if you don't like dogs.
Yeah, he'll lick you to death. Anyway, I don't know what we can cover here, but does anyone have questions for either Ms. Bazemore or the applicant? I think we dug in pretty deep last time, but
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman. Well, I think actually, I know Ms. Bazemore, just so we're clear, because I know since we didn't get the public comment, in written form. I mean, you said did you read that verbatim? I just want to make sure that, whatever that neighbor is saying, that, I mean, I know you tried to sum it up, but if we don't have it in front of us, just for the purposes of, since we're already in a strained condition with public participation, it might be better to read it in the record verbatim, since we don't have a paper copy in front of us that I'm aware of. So that's my first thing. And then I guess my second thing after that would be more for the applicant. So maybe just so I know you basically summed it up.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say, I know city council, they get summaries from their clerk. I know the school board's approach is they read public comments for 3 minutes and then stop reading if they don't get to the end. And they'll read public comments for up to 30 minutes and then stop if they don't have time. We haven't really had, this might be our first public comment about a specific item since we've gone virtual, so we haven't established that. But I'm sort of with Mr. Krasner. If it's brief and we want to read it word for word and cut yourself off after 3 minutes if it goes that long. But I think that approach would work well for us.
Yeah, I can do that. I have it right in front of me right now.
And I assume it's late, right? Because the other one we got earlier today, I assume if this one had come in earlier, we would have just gotten it earlier to read ourselves.
Yeah, this one came in at 7:04.
Okay, cool. All right, yeah, if you could read, that'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so this is from Brian LeBlanc and his wife Tina LeBlanc. And it says, my wife and I are the adjoining property owners at 321 North Van Buren Street. We'd like to strongly encourage tree preservation to the maximum extent possible along the southeast side of Van Buren Street's right-of-way, our property line along the southern boundary of the parent tract, Lot 2A, west boundary of the parent tract, Lot 2A. The plan's tree schedule lists all trees on the site as to be determined after subdivision. Note that number 56 was deemed a noteworthy tree, and the existing trees provide shade and habitat for wildlife, including trees numbered 54 through 64. Everyone appreciates that conservation of trees and green space contributes to the character of Falls Church. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for that. Now, Mr. Krasner, you had a question for the applicant?
Yeah, I did. I guess, been fully recognizing that I don't believe there's a grading plan that, I know there's not been a grading plan submitted, but perhaps the applicant may, he's kind of probably sketched out some idea of the kind of building footprints he's looking for here. And I understand, the nature of that and trees. But with that said, I guess I would ask the applicant to respond, since both of the comments we got were referencing some specific trees, some of which are actually, right on the property line or very close to it. So obviously, trees in the center of the buildable area are not likely to live on after this is developed. However, there are requirements for tree preservation anyway, and some of these ones that are at the edge of the property already, not that I'm necessarily looking for a condition at this point in time to hold you to this, but I'd like to get your initial reaction as far as the probability for some of these more significant trees that are right along the edges of the property. Anyhow, like 56, and I think the other neighbors mentioned 49. So to the extent you can react to those comments, I think I would appreciate that.
This is Gary. I can comment on that. I had asked the arborist to comment on the Miller's comments, the one from 600 East Columbia, and so he responded yesterday. We received this, I believe, the same day, and he did note that tree number 56 is a Vipus noteworthy ginkgo biloba, and that it would be beneficial to save it. It's a great specimen. Noteworthy trees, while not officially protected, are worth saving. He did note his preliminary thoughts is likely that a number of the trees between 606 and 600 East Columbia may not be preserved based on his experience with stormwater requirements. What he's saying is the BRL, the building restriction line, requires a dig for the foundation and swale, and it looks like a lot of the stormwater features for that property will be in that area. It's because the topography is sloping slightly towards the neighbor at 600 East Columbia. The area between the back of the house and the property line will likely become the main stormwater management area, swale or BNP, although that would be better addressed by stormwater engineers. The arborist is alluding to that. That said, it's a benefit both the city, the neighborhood, to retain as many of the trees as possible. So at the time of grading plan, when there's enough information on the siting and so forth, then that'll be a determination made on the tree saves. There is a note on the plan that carries the authority forward that and adds to the grading plan for the arborist to deal with tree saves. So with the stormwater management, and they'll be looking at the grading changes and possibility of saving as many trees as possible. So that's his preliminary comments on it, not having seen a grading plan, obviously, and that's when these determinations will be made. And this was Charles Prince, the interim city arborist, and this was his email dated October 6th. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Fuller. That's helpful, and I do fully recognize that the city arborist, looks very carefully at these types of issues at the time of grading, and honestly, it's something that I think that, and it's important to just put that out on the record because sometimes I know folks sort of want a tree to be saved, and I know the arborist usually is actually doing their job when they show that why it's not a good idea to try even attempt it in certain cases, and so it's just important sometimes to communicate with the public. But it's interesting that you mentioned then in his email tree number 56, I guess, as a notable tree, and it's on the very edge of the north side, or sorry, the south side of the property there, the higher point. So I mean, to me, that one seems like a good candidate for preservation. And I again, I'm not looking to put any types of conditions on that at this point, but I would just note that, given where it's located and it seems to be outside of the footprint. It seems to be, at the edge, the kind of area that could be protected during construction and wouldn't be affected by stormwater management. So I would just recommend to the applicant that he seriously consider. I know that they look at these things, but that one, because it's been identified specifically, seems to be worthy. There are some trees that are maybe not at that same level, but that one seems to be more notable than the average. So I'll just put that as a comment.
Thank you.
All right. I don't know if Scott, the applicant, wants to comment or not, but you're welcome to.
Yeah. I mean, I think Mr. Fuller summed it up very well. In every redevelopment opportunity we have, we do obviously value and treat trees as a significant asset to the property. I can tell you this, 3 months or so ago, I actually met with Mr. Prince on the site to review the trees that are existing and to just, upon initial consideration, just get a sense for what he thought we would be able to save or not. And so yes, I mean, I at this point in time have not a grading plan. There is, of course, a theoretical or conceptual plans. It is true that along the property line shared with 600 East Columbia, it is very likely that our BMP would be installed somewhere in that area. And so, obviously the trees in that general area would most likely not be saved. But I can certainly see trees number 58, 59, 60, 57 even. Those are relatively safe, if you will. Tree number 56, I agree, is a beautiful tree. The ginkgo, it's large in size, and it is more of a rare species, if you will. That one we will certainly do our best to save. It is unfortunately the side yard of the newly proposed home that would be built there, and we have 15 feet from the side yard setback to the foundation itself. So with a 3-foot overdig, we come within approximately 10 to 12 feet away from the base of that tree, making it very difficult to save. There's a lot of measures that we can take to try and save that tree. The risk obviously is that, several years down the road, the injury to the roots causes it to die, and then you have a tree that needs to be removed. So that I will discuss, and we will do our best to save that tree. And during the grading plan development, we will we will be addressing that, and hopefully we're able to do so.
All right, thank you for that. Any other commissioners have questions or comments? Tim?
Yeah, I do have just somewhat of a follow-up comment. It regards Ms. Miller's email. In addition to the trees, she also discusses stormwater, which of course we can't really do anything about tonight. But I was just wondering if perhaps Mr. Fuller or Ms. Bayswater, either of you might be willing to make just a kind of a general statement as to what the requirements are on this type of a redevelopment. For example, is there a requirement that no additional runoff be achieved, or just some kind of a general goal like that that might be of interest to the neighbor?
Yeah, this is Gary Fuller. So there would be, in terms of stormwater, the city engineers would be looking at that very specifically. And there's no net increase. And obviously the BMP areas, as mentioned tonight, would be the areas that either some type of swale or BMP facility would be designated there based on the final engineering data. So yes, that will be specifically addressed. And there's also an opportunity for the neighbors to comment on that review. I assume they're doing virtual meetings. They used to have those in person. So that's it.
Thank you.
Do we have, what's the rough estimate on the timing of that meeting in case anyone's watching tonight and wants to circle something on their calendar? I mean, it's probably not scheduled, but
I think at this point, well, in terms of when they normally meet, I think it's kind of when the plans are in and when they're ready to, review the plans. In terms of when submissions may come in, I guess Scott could address that for a grading plan.
Yeah, so we are hopeful that we will have a grading plan submission by the end of November. Following a normal review time of 1 to 2 months, that meeting is likely to occur sometime in mid to late January.
all right. So that's when people should keep a lookout for that noted.
And that would be with the Department of Public Works. So that would be the main group to monitor or to contact, or they could also contact planning as well.
All right. Any other commissioners have questions or comments?
This is Melissa Teets. I have a comment. I just wanted to point out that the white mulberry trees that are on this property are considered to be an invasive tree by the U.S. Forest Service and Virginia, the Virginia state. So if the white mulberries don't make it, it's actually a good thing for the environment. And the Norway maple is also considered to be a lesser invasive, but it's also an invasive tree. And I know Mr. Rankin's laughing at me, but I do habitat restoration in this city, and we constantly have to pull up white mulberries, so we'd rather not have them. And I guess the other thing I just want to make sure, I think this was kind of said by Mr. Stevens, but, at Subdivision, we really can't do much about, we can't do anything about trees or anything about runoff or any kind of treatment of water, because that is really part of the process after subdivision that we are not a party to. So it's really, we're really up to the staff for that and for the applicant. And we just hope that the applicant is able to save as many trees as possible.
Right. Except those
white mulberries.
White mulberries. No, and I appreciate Melissa's work. I know she does a lot of work on the invasives, which is great. All right, anybody else? I'm looking at the mute indicator. Not seeing any. I think unless anyone has any other comments, we are in a position to entertain a motion. And we didn't talk about this, but I think we were all supportive of the bump out on the sidewalk being something we include in our motion.
I can do the motion.
All right, thank you, Mr.
Okay, we ready?
I'm ready.
Ms. Bowsmore, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Whereas the proposed subdivision generally meets all applicable requirements of the city's subdivision and zoning ordinances, and the proposed subdivision is generally consistent with the comprehensive plan. Now, therefore, I move that the Planning Commission grant preliminary and final plat approval of a subdivision plat dated September 9, 2020, attachment 2 and 3 of 606 East Columbia Street into proposed lots 2A-1 in lot 2A-2 with the following conditions: that a curb extension be added to the northeast corner of the property to improve the existing sidewalk.
Thank you. Anyone up for a second?
I second.
Second for Ms. Weiss. And just confirming we didn't get any new public comment in the meantime.
I just checked and you guys did not.
Okay. Well, unless anyone has any other comments or thoughts, I'm ready for a vote.
All right, Mr. Rinkin,
Yes.
Mr. Krasner,
Yes.
Ms. Teets,
Yes.
Mr. Wadowska,
Yes.
Mr. Fuentes,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
and Ms. Weiss.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Glad we got that one taken care of. On to item 7,
Thank you.
information items. Planning Commissioner reports. Tim and I were at the EDC meeting a couple weeks ago. I didn't take great notes. Tim's notes are always better than mine. Do you remember anything notable?
Nothing particularly new came out of that meeting.
Yeah. I mean, the standard things that we've heard going on, still going on. No big breakthroughs anywhere. Anyone else have a report to give?
I do. So the Broad and Washington, the Insight Project, they had both a public meeting that was virtual and a walking tour. So it basically was information for the neighbors. Nothing has really changed since the more recent changes happened. They seems to be more detail on the parking. There was a lot of questions on the virtual public meeting about parking and trees. So, as you know, there's really not going to be a lot of impervious surface there. I mean, they're going to have some trees and some greenery, but a lot of it's going to be like on top of other structures. So there's a lot of concern there. I'm hearing from a lot of neighbors. I don't know if the other commissioners are, but I am getting emails or people talking to me out and about that are very concerned with the lack of green space in this project, and they're very concerned about what's going to happen with the parking with Clarendon's and Thompson's Italian especially. So anyway, so it was that's why I went ahead and sat in on the public meeting, because I wanted to hear, and those are the kind of questions that came up at it. So just wanted to point out that they are doing a lot of outreach right now, and despite what people keep asking the same questions and having the same concerns, but nothing seems to be changing at this point. Right. The other thing is, I watched the school board had a meeting last night, a planning meeting, but one of the things I thought was really interesting is they are going to attempt to have live comments at the end of October. So what they're going to do is have people register to comment by noon the previous day. Those people would be given a link, and I guess they're just going to control the mute button and let them have their 3 minutes, and then when their 3 minutes up, mute them, and then pull out the next person. So it'll be interesting to see how the experiment goes. I don't think the council's tried yet, so the school board might be the first group to try this. Right. It's on the school names issue. So I think I'm going to obviously be watching, and it'll be interesting, and I'm going to try to comment as well and just see how it works. Because
I know they don't use whatever we're using, Microsoft Teams. They use Google Meet or something.
Well, they use Zoom, I think. They use Zoom, but they broadcast on YouTube.
Okay.
So it's a weird combination.
If they've got a mute button, maybe they could moderate the next presidential debate.
Yeah, well, that would be helpful. But if it was on Zoom, we could have dealt with that. But anyway, I think they're going to do, what I understood is the comments are going to come through Zoom, but they're going to do their normal thing where they broadcast it through YouTube. I know VPIS, when we did our candidates forum recently, that's kind of what we did. We did it through Zoom, and then we broadcast it through YouTube and also through Facebook Live simultaneously. So they all work together very well. I mean, because VPIS is all run by volunteers, and we figured out how to do it, which is not that easy. We did a virtual concert this summer and figured out how to do it, which was not that easy. So anyway, I think this is something we should all watch and see how it goes for the school board, because at this point, it doesn't look like we're going to have public meetings very soon. But the school board also they're talking about doing some hybrid meetings where they actually do meet in person, but maybe not with an audience, because I guess they're looking for more interactivity. So anyway, like I said, it'd just be interesting to see what they do and how well it goes.
Yeah. All right. Any other planning commission reports? And Mr. Fuller, just to confirm, the Broad and Washington project was before City Council, and they declined to refer it out to us yet, right? That's the update on that?
Yes, the schedule on that, it's on the back of your agenda. We have, they have action contemplated on that on their upcoming meeting on the 13th, in which it's on their agenda for referral of boards and commissions. We're in anticipation of, if that happens, we would bring that to you on October 21st in your meeting as a work session, and not for any kind of action. And the other thing that we had contemplated is having a town hall for all boards and commission liaisons that evening as well. So kind of like what it would work like is that, from the first hour of the meeting would be board and commission liaisons would have a chance to, as well as the planning commission hosting it, have a chance to receive a full presentation by the applicant. So it'd be the benefit of all the board and commission liaisons and the planning commission at the same time. Then there could be a question and answer period in which the board and commission liaisons can interact with the developer. And then after an hour and a half, let's say, we would end the town hall meeting, and then you would go into work session having just received the presentation, as well as having been able to listen to the dialogue, and then you would have your own work session with the developer. Then from there, 2 weeks later, you would not have anything on your agenda on this item, and then it would come back to you in your second meeting in November for final consideration and recommendation of the council. So that's the tentative schedule that we have for that item, and then it would continue on with its board and commission reviews through partway through November, and it would come back to the council the first week in February. And there would be interim submissions and reviews, and so there'd be an opportunity for a joint work session later in the year in which the council would have first round of board and commission comments, and the planning commission would participate in that. So that's probably early December. So that's the tentative schedule on that.
That sounds okay to me, as long as that town hall doesn't wrap up at like 10 p.m. and we're trying to do our work session super late. So as long as that thing's time boxed or something.
Yeah, I think the time box, and if you would agree, we can talk further, but we would have the meeting start at 7:30, and then we could wrap up, and so we could have this town hall, and then there'd be a presentation. So the town hall could end by sometime between now 9 and 9:30, and we could kind of make a determination on that in advance, and then we would hold the work session with you guys.
Yeah, and then I like that there's a little bit of, like, I think the last time I saw it was like work session, one meeting, vote the next meeting, and that made me nervous just because something of this size, I don't think we've ever gotten everything sorted out between just one meeting. So looks like we have a meeting in between there. It wouldn't surprise me if we have, if we have thoughts that might be something we try to at least talk about in that meeting. But I guess we can see how it goes.
Sure, there'd be an opportunity to, based on your preliminary comments on the 21st of October, the applicant could address those possibly at the following meeting on November 4th, either in writing or maybe come in person again or so forth, or staff could, provide comments. So yeah, there would be an opportunity in between. You'd have basically a full month for the review. So.
All right, great, thanks. All right, anything else from planning commissioners report wise?
Yeah, this is Tim. Just a quick follow-up on the Broad Washington, just from the council work session on Monday. That, of course, one of the big issues, as we've already mentioned, is the parking. The Insight team had already had plans for 50 spaces of the 64 that are on the current city lot. So they were still short, but then they mentioned on Monday that they picked up another 15 spaces at a nearby lot called From the Media Factory, LLC. So there's an additional 15 spaces there that the developer apparently has acquired. But these are just for evening and weekend. They don't have any parking reserved. Really aren't anticipating that they'll be able to get any parking for the weekday lunch time period. So that'll be an issue. One other meeting I attended was the EDA meeting on the 6th. And just very quickly, the EDA has sent out the third round of checks, the grant, the $2,000 grants. They're looking into possibly loaning heaters to restaurants for outdoor dining. And they continue work with their wayfinding project. They're looking for help from the city council to fund half of the $500,000 that they anticipate will be required for the full program. And that's it.
All righty. All right. Unless we have anything else from planning commissioners, we've got, I don't know if we needed to cover any of this correspondence. There basically was two items, one related to, looks like a neighborhood traffic calming update that city council got this week. It's being shared with us, and then just a ongoing note about the Falls Green stuff that relates to the developer at the Insight project. But Gary, was there anything particular that you guys wanted to talk to us about the neighborhood traffic calming update? I mean, it's pretty well covered in the report.
No, I think you've got the detail there in the report. I know in the planning director's report, which you already received, that's dated September 30th. It is noteworthy to mention that the Virginia chapter of the APA has selected Railroad Cottages for their Red Clay Award 2020, which is the development of the year. So that's a statewide honor. So that's a notable recognition we're pleased with. Also, the Westin small area plan was approved by council.
On the Railroad Cottages, we're getting a lot of awards for that. A lot of mileage out of that project.
We are. Yeah, I know we did a presentation last year at the same conference.
No, I was there for that. Didn't we get an award from APA, or is this the first Virginia APA? I can't keep track. We got some other award, right?
We've got some in the past, and we've gotten others, but not this APA award for this project. But yes, so yeah, we've done well. Yeah. So then the Westin small area plan, the council held a public hearing and approved that unanimously September 14th. So there's a link that's provided so you have a final copy of that. So that's also a big accomplishment, being that most of our focus on redevelopment right now is on the West End. And then just as an administrative note, there was a number of site plan amendments for decks in the Whittier area. And then finally, just as kind of a note, that the neighborhood gateways draft mini plan highlights the value of the city neighborhood gateways and identifies basically a list of plans and policies that support that kind of concept. And this is just to, it's kind of introduce all the information in one spot. So if we want to have a thoughtful discussion in the future along these lines, that you have kind of a one-stop shopping for background information. So that's nothing more than that at this point, as a prelude to future discussion. So that was all we had tonight. Thank you.
All right. Anybody have any comments about the items in the planning director's report?
I had a question about the gateways project.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, if you could just tell us a little bit more about what where this gateways plan sits, and is there what process you envision for engaging communities? I mean, what is it's a nice document, but it sort of seems like it's just kind of hanging out there. So how does this fit into our overall plans, and what's the process for engaging people on it?
There is not a process at this point. We just wanted to introduce the topic and to put all the reference material in one place, so we can have a discussion on how we might want to carry this forward, and in terms of your objectives. I don't know if it's on a work plan yet or so forth, but we're just introducing this as a concept that we'd like to discuss further. So there are specific plans and no specific process at this point. And we're happy to talk about and to develop those.
Is this something that would fit in the community character chapter update?
I would think so very much, and I think it parlays into a lot of the work we're doing on the, like the art district and so forth. And, there's a lot of aspects that could.
Yeah. Well, Gary, if you're taking comments on that, I know it's very early, but I would say, we have our major gateways into the city, but we also have, a number of what I will call, minor gateways. But, I think it's important. Some of them have some signage. There are some areas of the city where you cross the line from the county, from Fairfax or from Arlington, and there's some signage, but sometimes there's not. It's kind of haphazard. I think it's actually helpful. I mean, I think part of our brand as a community is the fact that we're an incorporated city, and there are certain areas where, I think it's, even if it's a small sign being, again, in character with the neighborhood, I think it's important to indicate that. Like I'm thinking of West Street, North and South, Lincoln, coming in from Arlington. I don't know. There are just other than the major gateways that everybody knows, there are, minor gateways in the city as well that, also are obviously in neighborhoods, but I think there's a value to, again, for giving Falls Church that sense of community by indicating when you've entered the city, even in neighborhoods. Because in some parts of the city, it kind of flows in and out of the county, and you don't really know unless you're really good at picking up the blue versus green street sign. Sometimes you don't even, or if you're planning nerds like us, maybe you can tell because one house has an address with a lot of digits and, you've left. But I just think it's important to, on some of the minor gateways to, I'm not talking on every little neighborhood street, but on the more, significant streets to think about that too, as you're developing that plan. Just a comment.
Great. Thank you. I mean, those are all great comments.
Also, this is Tim on the same subject. I was a little puzzled at there's no page numbers here, so I can't really tell you too specifically, but it's the couple of captions that read illustrations of a gateway and green space for North Washington Street adjacent to 4 Mile Run. And I was just having difficulty grounding those two illustrations, trying to figure out what they might be showing there. So that might be something that could get a little work.
Okay. Noted.
Thank you.
While we're commenting on this, I'll be the contrarian. I think it's cool if you have features of the city that are, specific to Falls Church, like, I don't know, certain streetscape or whatever, but I always find it a little elitist to have little signs like, now entering the city. Certainly along the main thoroughfares, it's fine, but coming from the neighborhoods and stuff, I always there's a sign near my house, so I'm kind of like, who cares that you're suddenly in Falls Church?
Well, I mean, listen, the Commonwealth cares. When you enter and leave a county, they always post it, right? I think it gives people information that they left another jurisdiction. I mean, I don't know if it's elitist or not. I mean, it's just a fact of life. You've legally left one jurisdiction and entered another. So
yeah, if you want to put up a standard highway sign, that's cool. I mean, whatever. I'm probably in the minority.
Well, we already have some. Like for example, right now it's just very random. Like for example, in my neighborhood on Highland Avenue, there is a little sign that indicates you've entered Falls Church with our seal on it. And Highland Avenue is not really a major street at all. It's a neighborhood street. The traffic volumes are pretty low. But for example, on Lincoln, when you leave Arlington and it's Fairfax Drive technically, and then all of a sudden you cross, there's no sign at all. So it's just, there's no order to it, is what I'm saying. I don't know like the history of how they came to be at some of the boundaries and not at others. But if we're going to look at it, we might want to just look at it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no.
Problem is maintenance, because like there used to be a sign on Lincoln and someone ran over it. I just say this because I'm on the VPIS board, and we put up we bought and put up most of those signs, and at any given time we have at least 2 or 3 laying in the property yard because they've been run over, and we have to wait for the city to put them back. So whatever we do with these signs, we either need to make something that can't be run over, or we have to have a better maintenance plan, because literally there's been a sign like hanging out there for 2 years now that we can't seem to get back up.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, I think other people are passionate about this. I just like the sign near my house. I find particularly annoying because it points out that in 1699 or whatever was the year that white people got here, and I think it says settled or something. I don't know. Yeah, settled in 1699, as if nothing was happening before 1699. So I just think it's fine. If we had some special sidewalk treatment or whatever that was throughout the city and everyone knew like, oh, that's Falls Church, that's their cute little brand, that's cool. But if our cute little brand is just signs, I just find that to be a little bit, why bother? If you really need to know that you're in the city, like you're buying a house, you'll know if you're buying a house in the city before you buy it. You're not going to need a sign to tell you.
Although I will say that today I went to vote, and some people came in to vote, and they were from Fairfax County, and it took the staff 15 minutes to get them to believe that they couldn't vote there. So there's definitely some issues.
I don't think a sign is going to fix that. But.
Maybe not, but I'm just saying that, like, but also in some cases, Arlington and Fairfax County has signs as well. And you're right, it's just haphazard where they are and where they're not.
Right. I mean, there's some parts of the city where there's no. If we're going to look at it, let's just create some type of. Let's think about it. It doesn't have to say whatever it says. I'm not going to make a judgment call on what it should say or what it should have. Like I've seen, like I said, the one on Highland by my house, it's just a city seal. It's on the side of the road, like attached to a street sign. It looks like DPW must have made it. Whoever makes our signs, in house or whoever. It's not one of the colonial looking 1699 signs. It's just the seal. And then on Grove, there's nothing. There's something that just says like end of state maintenance or something. I don't know. It's which is also kind of funny. Sometimes it's good, for snowplow drivers, they got to know when to be that, has to know when to stop paving the street. So there's all kinds of reasons why the signs are probably, if we're going to look at it, let's just look at it.
So where is the sign study? Because they've been studying this for a long time. Are we close to?
Well, this is different.
This
is different than the sign study, right?
Well, I know, but it has to be part of that program, because that was that whole research study was to encompass all signage like that. So, I mean, that's a nice little piece about, having better gateways, but it needs to be part of this part of that bigger study.
Last I heard, the wayfinding effort from the EDA was looking for funding from the city, right? Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah. So I think that we can't. I mean, should be part of that program whenever that gets funded or whenever it happens.
Sure, but to be clear, this document, if you look at it, it isn't much about signs. It seems to be more like artistic features and.
Right. Exactly.
Which is cool. There is a sign there, though. I do see it. All right. Do we have anything else? Are we actually going to wrap this thing up early? Would that be incredible?
Okay, can I just clarify, and maybe I'm sorry, I haven't had enough caffeine today, but what is the ask from planning staff to the planning commission with respect to the gateways? Is the ask, should we have gateways, yes or no? Or should we have some sort of progress to design what our gateways should be? Or should gateways be included in some future? And what is the specific ask? What are we supposed to do with this?
At this point, we're just asking your interest level on this, and then if you'd like to pursue this further, then we'll engage you with this and schedule on some future work sessions.
Well, I'm interested in it, but I definitely think it has to be integrated into whatever happens with wayfinding, because we don't want to come up with some other system while that system's going on. I think it has to be part of that branding and everything else.
Well, that ship has sailed and almost come back to port, right?
Right. I guess that's the question. It's like, should we be working on it if we can't get it wayfinding funded? Because part of the wayfinding was entry signs, not just, not the neighborhood and smaller neighborhood signs. So I don't know. I just kind of think
it sounds to me like as a standalone effort, it's hard to figure out how that works. But it sounds like if the wayfinding effort gets some funding, then some aspect of this gateway thing should be considered. And then if the comprehensive plan chapter, that's name is escaping me, the character one, if that one, is that even on our schedule anymore?
I think it was removed from our work plan for this year.
So whenever that comes back, this seems to be an obvious component to that. But I mean, you guys can weigh in. It doesn't seem to me like there's a lot of interest in tackling this as a standalone item anytime soon.
And I think you could have this discussion, in other words, this should be on your work plan. So I think that would be the future concept to discuss. Is this something you want to add to your work plan? And that's what you're starting to preliminarily talk about tonight.
Yeah, so we have information. So the next time we're making work plans, we can factor this in.
And I would just say, I think it's a great thing for us to talk about it, but until we've crystallized our work plan a little bit more around, I think what several of us have identified as a priority, which is looking at housing diversity in the city, I would say that this should be a priority for, further down the list than that. So I'd rather see more work on the housing zoning issue on our work plan than something like this.
All right, thank you.
All right. Anything else? No. Sounds like our next meeting is October 21st. We have a speaker, West Falls Church parking variance, and then maybe the Broad and Washington thing if City Council moves that along.
Yes, and so the variance may or may not happen, but we've tentatively listed that. It may move off a month, so we may only have the speaker and then go into the town hall and then a work session following that. So I think it'll be a manageable meeting.
All right. Famous last words. All right. If there's nothing else, anyone? Then I'm going to say we are adjourned.